We've been campaigning for a long time to have legal protection for the term leather, so that you can't call something vegan leather, for instance. We know from surveys that have been done here in Europe and in the US that some consumers find these terms confusing. So, for instance, a colleague of mine used to run training courses and was asked at the end of the training course, what kind of animal is a faux? Because I want to know where I get faux leather from. Okay, now we know, yeah, exactly. You do wonder, but this is happening. People are confused by terms like vegan leather. They assume that this must be somehow a more sustainable leather. Eco leather is an absolute killer. Eco leather typically means PVC. Okay, there's nothing leather about it. So we've been trying to get legislation to protect the term leather so that it can't be applied to anything that isn't leather. And to be honest, I think that works for everybody, because if you don't want to use an animal product and something's labelled as leather, it's completely unambiguous. You know to avoid it. Similarly, if someone sells you, a terrible sofa which falls apart after 18 months and they've told you it's leather, it turns out to be PVC, you've got absolutely unquestionable grounds to go get your money back. So that's something we need to see more of. I personally would like to see component labelling, but obviously that starts to get very complicated if you're looking at complex items. For a pair of shoes, it's quite easy, but for a TV, it perhaps wouldn't be so easy. So, yeah. But there is definitely a need to give consumers better information on everything, not just leather. People need to understand where their stuff's coming from, what the impacts are. The problem with that is that you then need to agree who and how decides those impacts, and you start getting into life cycle analysis, and there are all sorts of arguments to be had there, because it's not an exact science. There are a lot of choices that you can make in a life cycle analysis about where you start. So are you familiar with the Higg index? Sustainable, yeah, okay. So the most environmentally sound material according to the Higg index are plastics, whereas something like silk has a score which is, I think, is 30 times higher than polyester. A lot of that is down to what data you choose to use and where you choose to start. So as I understand it, and the Higg index is not in any way transparent, for polyesters, they don't include taking the oil out of the ground or processing it at all. Whereas for leather, they include everything, from the animal in the field all the way through, which is why the scores are so different. They also don't look at end of life. They don't look at durability. They only go up to the gate. And I know there are plans for them to look at all these things, but if you choose the data to fit the endpoint you're looking to reach with life cycle analysis, you can probably get there. So it's important that whatever information we give to consumers is balanced. And one thing that has been happening in Europe is the development of product environmental footprint category rules, which have the great advantage that they present a life cycle analysis, but it's been approved by a third party, by the European Commission. So the individual industry cannot put the spin that it wants to on it. And hopefully we'll see more of that kind of thing.